2, go. So, hey everyone, my name is Christiano Can, and on this discussion for this moment, I have a very special creature who I will introduce in a second. Her name is Athena. Athena, feel free to say hi so we make sure your audio is working.
Hello. Hi.
Cool. So, to start this off properly, you have no idea what I'm going to discuss or open up for you. And I think that keeps it as pure as what I'm going to share. Is so in the moment and so present that we both have to be here. Why it's you is because even before I started this process, instinctually back in mid-June, on to actually starting it explicitly towards the end of September, I was wondering, thinking, trying to connect or figure out who I would want to share this with fully, unhindered, and whose opinion, feedback, and just overall vibration I would want to just connect with on this one thing. And truth be told, you are the only one. There are people that have been around me that I've met for years, but honestly, our connection has always superseded time and space. And it's only recently that it's been more evident, and we get to talk about it because we can speak a language where we don't have to fill in the blank. And it's like, hey, so space and time don't exist for us. This is kind of about space and time. It falls in line to just some of the progressions you've made in your practice, your lifestyle, your awareness. And yeah, I just wanted to make the first share of this topic and subject with you because I want to hear what you ask and how you resonate with what's coming. So before I start, I want you to talk about just a bit on however you want to relay our relationship. But more importantly for me is what you do, what your practice is, so that as I start to share, it's kind of like, oh, so it's all yours.
Yeah. I met you after I had been traveling, and I was probably in one of the most lost states I've been in. I'd been like traveling through Latin America, and I just was by myself in Panama without direction, without guidance. And yeah, it was just a very interesting time because it was like the first time I'd just thrown myself into like that concept of allow whatever is gonna come to come. Yeah. And I think we had like a brief conversation in the hostel that we met at, and then we just crossed paths like a couple times more, and it was like very evident that we needed to connect, and we exchanged emails or something, and then we're like started conversing like through Messenger, and it was just like this intense connection. Like even though we were just messaging, it was like there was such heightened emotions, and it was like, whoa, like it was like you were just there chatting with me, and it was just,
there's nothing in between.
The first time I was like, this is so strange. Yeah. Anyway, we've hung out quite a bit since then. We had like a lot of time together, like around 2012, when everyone was saying that.
What a year. What a year.
Yeah, the world was going to end, and I was living in Guatemala like most of the time at that stage, and you were in Costa Rica, and we're kind of like crossing paths and sharing time. And yeah, we've just had like a friendship, and there was some weird things that happened along the way as well. Anyway,
that's the magic of chance.
Yeah, and interesting encounters. And anyway, at that stage, I'd just quit my job in advertising. I'd started a business producing and designing handbags, and I was like very involved in that, and it was really a wonderful outlet for me to explore my creativity, and it was something I'd wanted to do for a long time, but I was struggling in a way with it because yeah, I was producing things in a planet that's full of things, and yeah, there was a lot of like mismatch, and vibrationally that was a struggle. Now I've been through a lot. I lived in Denmark since. I'm from Australia. I live in Sydney now, where I was born, and I've just been through a lot. Anyway, I'm not going to go through the whole story, but I'm now a hypnotherapist, which is totally different again.
Yes.
And I think I've always been interested in what's more than the five senses that we've been given or that we've been told we have. And I've always known that there's something more, and I've always sensed there's something more, like things have happened, and I've seen and experienced things in my life that I'm like, there's no question that there's more than what we see, feel, smell, taste, and touch and hear.
All right, so I'm going to jump in because, yeah, we can go on, but I want to keep this real concise and focused. So even you saying what you just said, so in right around June 15th of 2020, something in me started to really focus on the skies, the moon. I was interacting with a small group of people, and it was really all based on the lunar sequence and cycles energetically. My draw to it was a bit different. And even with this individuals that I was around, I couldn't fully explain it. However, something told me to change my diet immediately. And so after this really out of body experience, that this one of the individual, he got the experience. He walked into the room when it was happening twice. The first time he sat down, he came in the room and he was awoken out of his sleep as though I had called him and I didn't. The energy of my intention and what I was going through called him from another room. So he comes in and he's like, whoa. And I'm like, just going through this thing. And so he sits down on the floor and just starts to take in and breathe because he was affected by the energy in this room. And he was like, when we spoke about it later, he was like, man, I couldn't do anything but sit there and be there with you because there was so much energy in that room. In addition, on this one day, there was a crystal that cracked. There was so much energy going on that we had a crystal that cracked, and that is forever associated with whatever had to come out and be released in that moment. It was like it cracked a crystal. The second time was I was actually resistant because there were people around when this next wave of a very similar thing was coming. And I actually did not sit in and allow it to be. So what happened 2 days later is that when it came and it came heavy. It came and my stomach and then my whole body was aching because I didn't surrender to it for this next round. I was resistant to it. And I guess it just had to happen. So it was just so dark and so heavy. And so this time when he came, he even said, he didn't want to be in the room this time because he says this was something that was dark that you had to deal with. And dark meaning heavy, not dark meaning negative. It was a total different vibration from what was. And what I told him later, after I finished the process or what needed to be finished with me, he said, yeah, that was totally different from the last one. The last one was inclusive. The last one was pretty much everything around you was focused with you. This one was just you and it was absorbing. And I told him that it was just, I didn't allow it to be because there was company and people around. So that was this precursor to what caused me to change my diet, go straight to vegan, then go straight to fluids, then go straight to water. Then I went to nothingness. And when I say nothingness, this is where we talk about synthesis, Athena. You ready? Have you ever heard of dark therapy?
Yeah, I have. Do you
Okay.
remember Keenan?
I do.
He was doing that.
What is it? Describe it to me. What did he do?
He was like locked basically, and it sounds so crazy. He was like going into a darkness chamber. There was a darkness chamber back in Guatemala that a woman was running. And
is that what he was talking about? I don't even remember until you say that now and it clicks like, oh my gosh. And just thinking of the moment that I had with him that I told you about that was supernatural, that even led to our connection and hooking up in Costa Rica. That makes so much sense. Question, did I meet him before or after his session? He had done it
I don't
already,
know.
right? Okay. So
I don't know.
let me tell you what
Maybe.
happened. I went into 108 hours of no food, no water, no light.
Okay.
And it was not planned. It just happened. Something said, just go. Literally, it was a just go. And so, what I want to talk with you about is we have many more times to talk, but I kind of again want to keep it are what I experienced, and we'll build from there based on you've had familiarity with this through Keenan and maybe others. So I want to share this because I don't know many people that have done it. And now that I think about it, Keenan is one of, if I had to pick 5, he's the only one I can think of that has and could do this. So now I can think of one. So the first wave, because you don't have any sense of time, when you go into the darkness, you can't see anything. This is all gone, and so your cones and everything operates differently. But the first wave is the funniest, because you go in and you're like, all right, you're trying to make associations, you're feeling on the wall and making sure you don't trip over stuff, and it's just you get into this comfort zone. And then the way the brain works is you try to find things to associate with time and you don't have much. It's like, wait a minute. So how long has it been? Like 15 minutes? Nothing. This is going to be easy. I have my binaural beats at 428 and 432 and 528. And if I choose, I can put those on. Hopefully they don't stop playing, because how will I find the button? So that goes on. And you just fade through that. I don't know how long it lasted, but that's just first wave. Second wave. The second wave is the
What's
reason.
a wave?
Well, I would say phases or steps of what I feel as it started to advance. A wave is a defined feeling or experience separate from the next or the latter. So the first wave was just entering and associating with the darkness and trying to come to grips that the process has started. After that was settled and I was in that, the second wave came. And the second wave is the reason I confidently repeat that there aren't 5 people that I can name and hug that can make it through this with no food, no water, and no light, because it comes to discipline. And the thing is, nothing is stopping me from opening this door to get some light, to get some food, to just go check a message, to be a part of a conversation. Nothing is stopping me. But the second wave is when all of the doubt kicks in. This is the wave when it's like, oh man, I mean, I can do this next week, or like, I mean, like, just anything that you need to confront with yourself will pop up. It is epic. And there are things that popped up as considerations that I had never thought I had within myself. And that's when I knew I was about to go through something a bit different, because I'm like, whoa, I'm really thinking about this in consideration. Huh. Meditation. And if you've ever fasted, will help you get through this, because again, I just want a bite to eat. I just get a quick drink and it won't interfere with the process. Just there's so many micro considerations that come up, but this is the most difficult phase. This is when your hunger does kick in. And again, that doubt, this is when your thirst kicks in. This is when your body's is it's working through a process of readjustment. It's starting to look at itself and realize that nothing's coming right now. So after I found my point of meditation, I started to breathe consciously, and I sat in the fact that I was in this now. I was now here. I knew I was going to do this. And so the third wave started. The third wave, when that came in, from the rest of the process, I no longer had any hunger. I no longer had any thirst. And I was almost in a point of stasis because of the way I would breathe and the fact that I didn't move. If I had to guess, without associating any finite point of time, I think I physically did not move my body from the state of meditation and in almost the state of stasis for about 45 to 60 hours straight, just breathing still and there in the moment. And so in this third wave, at a certain point, I'm talking to myself. I don't recall if I was talking out loud or in my head, but I was having conversations of awareness, like considerations on who I am, what do I want to do, what do I want to accomplish, what isn't, what is of value to me, what is value. And it was these cool introspective conversations with self that even supersede what I'm saying. I'm just trying to give it some relative measure, but it was such a warm moment, but it was also the darkest moment. The third wave is when the darkness has set in, and at the same time is when the light starts to come. So towards the end of this phase is when I started to see cones of like orbs of like, if I had to describe colors, they were like orange and red, light, faint, symmetrical, and they would just move slowly in the space that existed. And by space, I mean space, because it was nothing but this space. And so I remember being like, whoa. And I would put my arms up and hands, realizing that I couldn't see or touch it, but it was there and it was so present. I was like, this is amazing. And so I started to get excited. But I'm still sitting there breathing. And then the next wave kicked in. This is when I have to say thank you. There's this lady I met that played a part in the process because she introduced me to 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗶. And just to give some pretext, I've done mushrooms, I've done 𝗵𝗶𝗴, I've done...
What's 𝗵𝗶𝗴?
𝗵𝗶𝗴 is a form of DMT that is excreted from frogs.
Yeah.
And that is actually part of what you make in your body, in addition to DMT. So shortly after meeting her and having some discussions, we tried different things. And energetically, whether it was both of us or just the moment, the mushrooms we did, and the mushrooms that we did never took effect. And when I did the 𝗵𝗶𝗴, I remember seeing this space that was full of, again, for lack of a better term, this white light of space that was infinite and beyond. It was so present. And I was screaming, we made it. Just because there was this exhilaration of making it past a great barrier that was coming, that everyone would not make it through. It was the sifting process, and I'm screaming out loud from the top and bottom of my soul, we made it. Just sheer joy, just unending, limitless joy. And this is what I experienced in the fourth wave. So I'm thankful for her for that introduction, because it gave me a barrier, a measure, something to just equate or relate this to someone else that may get it. And I haven't even gotten to share this with her, because again, I waited for you to share this story. So you know who you are. Thank you for that moment. And it was just, that was like brilliance. Like even now as I talk about it, I'm both in the 𝗵𝗶𝗴 moment and I'm in my internal 𝗵𝗶𝗴 release. And my internal 𝗵𝗶𝗴 release is so extremely different from what the external input version of it did. Like, oh my goodness, can't explain it in words. So let's
you
go
got
to the
high on your own supply. That's awesome. But yeah, that's what Keenan was trying to do. He was trying to get that pineal gland release.
Fifth wave, and then I'll be done. Fifth wave is when the lights went off. Though it was instant too. It went from floating in a 3D realm of just pure joy to all of a sudden I saw everything. And when I say everything, I could see the door, I could see my hands, I could see structures and forms that all I need to do was choose where I wanted to stop my vision. It was the most epic viewing of existence that I have ever experienced. The flavor and taste, the reward of just making it this far. There is nothing I've ever experienced, nothing I've ever read, nothing I've ever heard, taken, consumed, envisioned, or processed that has ever felt like what this moment was when everything came into vision. Every frequency, particle, and consideration was at the control of what frequency I chose to tune into. I could see through the doors. I could see the people that I told to come and get me out after 108 hours were 100 meters away. I could see them through the door, down the steps, through the bushes. I could see where they were. I knew before he came, before he even touched the ground, that he was on the way. And I chose to come out of this. I chose to come out of this because I didn't want to be taken out of it. So before he even got to the door, I was out breathing and smiling. And I told him when I came out, I said, if I didn't tell you guys to come and get me after this set time period, I could have stayed in there for another 10 days. And after that moment, I have since become addicted to the darkness. And I look at the search for darkness, or search through darkness, or the search for the light within you differently. Even my first song talks about you have it, it's already in you. And it was nothing in connection to what I just experienced. And it is so beyond. And this is part of when you say, Christiano, I hear so much more love in you. It's partially because of what the 𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗀𝗏 phase did. In that phase, Athena, is when I saw myself. From the third phase to the fourth wave, I saw myself stand up and look at me and say, now you must continue alone. Literally, it was me vibrating as saying, now you've made it, continue. And so when I entered and then I left the white and came, that's when it was like, wow. And this is when I started to have this connection to an allotment of things that I started to share. I'm not one to talk on video like this. You know how private I am with my everything. And so it became...
I was just going to say your everything.
And so it got
So
to the
funny.
part where I must share this. It's not about me. It's not about anything. And so this darkness therapy, this trip to your DMT, this trip to activate yourself is something that I would recommend every creature on the planet try to do, get the discipline to do. It will reward you beyond anything you can fathom if you make it. I don't know what the precursors are. I don't know if my life made it possible to happen. I don't know if my diet made it possible to happen. All I know is that everything I did before was pineal cleansing. It was the addition of 𝗲𝗏. It was a diet change. And it was just a conscious push that kicked in and was put on me to now. It literally said now. And so there was, of all the people that were around me at that time, it really twiddled down to maybe two, because I was spiraling and pushing everything and everyone away. I was becoming even more self-absorbed. But now I know I was absorbing so far in that nothing, the fewest things around me, they just had to just not exist. And so people thought I disappeared. My homie, literally, I was cutting my hair at like 5 o'clock in the morning and my whole body just went go. And I left and disappeared and went into a room of darkness for 108 hours unplanned, just gone. So in him calling, I guess he ran into like the hair, the bike. I left my bag. I dropped everything, and just went. So the darkness, yeah, I encourage that everyone deep consideration to go and disconnect from everything. Wires, phones, family, friends, children, pets, everything. Focus on you for the first time since you've been in the womb. You've not had that much consideration and focus on yourself. I am addicted to the darkness. And so now I can say openly that as I start to disappear, it's a good chance that I went into the nothingness when you can't contact me, because that is the everything. That is everything, Athena. It's senses beyond senses. Like that cliche of see with your other eye. Oh my goodness. It was so clear. It was so clear and so much control.
It's wonderful. I'm glad you had that experience.
I'm glad that you got to listen because I was waiting to share with you. So yeah, go ahead.
No, I do get that. I haven't done the darkness retreat, but I have done Vipassana and some other silence meditation retreats where like, yeah, you're just within. But I definitely have heard that added layer of darkness enables you to kind of, and also like the fasting,
All of it.
you can very well like trigger that pineal awakening, which is really cool, which releases the DMT. I know, yeah, that person that we mentioned earlier, like he didn't quite get there. And it was really interesting because he'd just come out of a 40-day silence. And he was kind of disappointed, but I was also like, yeah, I think it's
a bit more to it.
A huge, yeah. And I think it was only a 48-hour one or maybe 72. So
even then,
and I've definitely, yeah, like vision questing. I don't know, that's become quite popular in Australia, but yeah,
vision questing, what is that?
So there's some people here in Australia, and it's actually a US thing that was created by an Indigenous, American Indigenous person, and like an elder. And he went into the forest and like just with water, I think that's all. And you just go and sit in the forest for like 3 or 4 days. No food, nothing. And yeah, it's become a thing, like to kind of do these vision quests, and you do get downloads. Like it's a thing where you get your downloads. He got a lot of channeling about the future of humanity. Like I'll look it up and I'll find the resources for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's just a connection and space for nature and other energies to fill your space, other than the frequencies that inundate you every day around you, knowingly and unknowingly. So I can see how
but there is something really special about the darkness. Have you heard of the Kuna people in Colombia?
I was sent that video by Sean Morgan. Sean Morgan and I had a conversation like 3 days after I came out, and I briefly explained this, not into the extent that I just gave it to you. And he sent me the documentary, and I watched the whole thing
of
on how they take their children into the darkness for anywhere from birth up until 9 years of age. And again, after coming and doing what I did, I don't even know how I would have responded to that before because I'm not that guy anymore. But I see the value in that above and beyond what any other society or outside force may be opposed to. The value of the darkness and what happens when you unlock and connect to something that is yours, that is only yours, that is made by you, for you, and brings you into the key of a frequency that is all. I have so much intrigue about what that does to a child who is not inundated with impure experiences of the world. I am so curious to just sit and have a nonverbal exchange with these creatures that have been through these processes. Yes. So yes, I have seen the documentary. I think it's amazing. I think darkness has been looked at so wrong or been considered taboo because we're taught to seek the light and like leave the dark alone or fight the dark or defeat the dark, and it's like, whoa.
But we live in a world of polarity,
Yes, we do.
Like the dark and then the light,
and they're the same.
But to get to the light, you need to go through the dark. I have this friend. Like one word I just want to say is that, like, enlighten, like within is the light, you know.
So literal. It's so much.
Yeah. And when I did my Vipassana, like I definitely felt the most connected, the most like spiritually aware, the most sensitive, like sensitive to like touch, feel, like all these other like energies, you know.
How would you
And I came,
describe what Vipassana is, though? What is that process?
Vipassana is like,
Vipassana, I said it the other way.
yeah. It's they say it's one of the oldest forms of Buddhism. It's a Tibetan, I think, strain. And it's basically a process where you go into silence for 10 days. And you do it with a number of people, but there's no eye contact. There's no, they take away your phone. They take away any writing implements, any music, anything that causes you to externalize. Like they even limit your amount of exercise. You can kind of like stretch your legs a little, but it's all about going inside. And that's for 10 days. So yeah, like not even eye contact, but it's not darkness, but you are in meditation for a good solid, like probably 8 hours a day. So with your eyes closed, I guess you have that darkness. Yeah, that's also a really beautiful process. And I think that there's probably a nice like layer of cleansing and purification that happens when you do fasting as well. So
I was about
you're
to
not
ask,
fasting during that.
is it suggested that you do not move? Are you sitting in a still position, stationary?
Yeah.
Okay, now here's the thing, that after not having food or water for 108 hours, I would not have needed it for another, who knows? It wasn't until I started to move beyond just a creeping crawl that my body even recognized the needed influx of something. It wasn't sunny enough for me to say, what if I only need the sun to charge at this point? Because that is what I've gotten my body down to, is that I eat and consume external food a lot less. I can sit in front of the sun anywhere from 15 minutes to 6 hours a day and just have water and breathe and just go through thoughts and considerations, and it works. Like everything is becoming different through a process that is activating itself through discipline. It is really taking on its own thing. But if I didn't move so quickly within the first 30 minutes out of the process, the people that I was there that guided me out and were there to make sure I was not interfered with, I would not have needed food. I would not have needed food or water. It was the body, the machine needed to be nourished, but everything else was optimized. It was just, yes. So that's interesting. So this is the conclusion that I came to. At this point, since I came out, I live in a place where people are very interested in themselves, being better, improving their health, wealth, and just overall wellness. My homie is a physician who the last thing he'll ever prescribe or suggest is that you have something that it has been synthesized. It's about natural. It's about preventative. It's about awareness of what food is and frequency and the value of meditation. And so having gone within, knowing the things that are experienced without, I don't foresee myself ever partaking in anything external. Not ayahuasca, not DMT, not bufo, not shrooms, with anywhere near the respect or regard, knowing what I have. It's kind of like why I learned how to do so many things before I would ask someone. It's why some people, my uncle would say, you're the ace of many things, almost everything, Christiano, but you're the master of none. Because I would take things on and get real good and proficient and just move on to something else. And he says, you have to master something, then it'll come. But you are the ace of many things. And so I mastered myself. That was really all I ever cared about. And everyone who knew me knew that. It was just your personal trip to me may take that a different way. Selfish, self-centered, loves himself, narcissist, many things. You can have it. I would never fight that. It's But yeah, I know that the only true trip in this life is yours. You can't control, influence anyone's trip but your own. Your spiritual journey is the purest trip you could ever take, try to enhance and truly engage in. That is the ultimate thing. And so I have enjoyed it. I feel that now I have reached this point where it's time to say, hey guys, all that stuff that I wasn't talking about or you thought I was trying to hide or just talking in code, here's the code. And I will decode it with you now. I will sit and go through that extra question or needed explanation of a word so you don't think, he's not trying to answer my question. No, I really want you to understand this because I feel that the way I talk about capitalism now is the way I'm going to talk about the darkness. So it's self-control. Once you learn how to control yourself, you can see the control that is affecting you from the outside. It is amazing to have full control of that matrix. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear. I have a friend who's in Denmark, and she's I think she's like a double doctor degree, but she works on neuroscience, and I don't know why it's just keeps coming in my head, and I'm like, but she works on they're like trying to get drugs to go through for drugs that are for assisting different neural issues.
Mm-hmm.
And she's worked out how to there's a way to, I want to get this right, and I might be getting it very wrong, but anyway, the essence of it all is that they're basically using light, and they've figured out how to turn and enlighten different cells within the body. And I just we have this capacity within us to enlighten ourselves. She does it scientifically in order to get these drugs through the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah.
and I'm just it's mainstream, it's just not mainstream yet. It's it's coming through. And I think just the beautiful thing, I've been saying it for many years, after I had my first Vipassana and after I've had some really spiritual experiences just meditating, and this is the second time this week I've spoken about it, in the last few days, this girl that I know, she was speaking about how she's just given up pot, and she's having some amazing meditations and feeling much more high and much more aware and much more connected than she ever did using marijuana. And I'm like, yeah, you got high on your own supply. That's it. I know I keep saying it, but we live on heaven on earth. This is heaven on earth. It's just what you make of it,
It's your reality to choose, form, mode, and really manipulate fully, wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
But
such a beautiful experience. I'm so happy to hear you had that.
My goodness. I can't wait to get back. I cannot wait to get back.
I think you're just going to have to move to Mount Kailash and go into a little cave up there or something.
And the satiation when the senses were reactivated made them seem, for lack of a better term, remedial, because we have way more than the senses we talk about. It's just this realm, this density, this third dimensional density has these certain constructs that make it its thing. It's no different than when you play different video games in what were called arcades. Most games had different button sets because they had different configurations for what needed to get done. And so in this third density, we have these different configurations for which we all play and look at the same screen. It's hey, I see you. And then if you take mushrooms, you level up and you go to a whole different game and you're whoa, the controls are different, the screen is different, you see different people, different colors, but okay, now you're operating different. You do the DMT, it's whoa, what the? It's a whole different set of controls and limitations. And so to have access to your own key that I feel I can relate to all of the other external experiences based on having access to this one. My DMT gives me access to, I can go back and dial back to Bufo. I can dial back to ayahuasca. I can dial back to mushrooms. I can dial back to LSD. I can dial back to, it's like all of that is encompassed in yourself. It's I am the key.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So cool.
Awesome.
This is pretty much the extent. It wasn't too scary. I know you were like, oh my God, Christiano, what are you going to tell me? Or what are we going to talk about?
I didn't know what we were going to talk about. No.
And I'm a prankster. I am the Joker. I am the
You're
fool.
the original Pan.
Ooh, if only people know how playful that guy is. So yeah, pandemic. But no, I appreciate you just holding space for this conversation. And I hope we have more exchanges, considering we're still growing and going through this together, and you and I on different levels and frequencies and vibrations. So yeah, thank you for your time and consideration of my share.
Pleasure. Thank you for sharing.
Cool.